the dawn of capitalism, when corporations as mighty as nations rule the seas and dominate the world's valuable trade routes. With an iron fist, they forge a path of tyranny and exploitation, igniting a battle for global supremacy. From the Indian Ocean, a flood of exotic goods feed new addictions and fill coffers with coins tainted in blood. And where there is blood, there are predators.
And where there are predators, there's profit. Skull and Bones is an upcoming game developed by Ubisoft, where you play as a pirate captain in the 17th century, cutting your own destiny in the Indian Ocean through the shipwrecks of others. I got to play in the closed beta for the game this past weekend, where I was allowed to play for up to 6 hours over the course of 3 days in the weekend, to sample what the game will be like when it finally is released in mid-February. And believe me when I say those 6 hours were some of the most adventurous I think I've ever had playing a game in recent history. The beta starts me off as a pirate captain who's been hired to escort the treasure ship of the Exeter, but an ambush laid by a British fleet sinks the ragtag pirates, and we arrive too late to help. In our ship, all we can do is steer around the wreckage of everything that remains around us, and pick off the remainders of the British fleet that have decided to stick around and take what remains of the Exeter's cargo, making my mission all the more difficult. Some of the British smaller ships are no threat to a few cannon volleys from the large hulking pirate ship that I'm sailing around the seas. That is, until one of the British flagships comes over the waves and assists all of the smaller ships that have so far failed to sink my own. While the small ships do their best, I'm able to sink them down into the seas below. And the flagship arrives. The ships for the British fleet start to quickly flank me on either side, trying to surround my ship and prevent any form of escape that I can try and get out of. But in my attempts to get away from the British flagship as it fires on my own with mortars, I casually leave the battleground, or sea ground, by accident and turn back around. Once I turn back around, it's a full naval barrage between the British fleet and the only surviving pirate ship in the entire region, me. My men put up a damn good fight, but even the most daring of pirate captains can't go toe-to-toe and serve as a perfect match against an entire armada of British fleets, flagships, and their mortars to attack. While I'm able to stave off a few British rockets, the entire British fleet arrives and there's nothing more I can do. And so my unnamed pirate ship falls into the ocean under a barrage of rockets and mortars. Sails, masts and all, crashing into the sea just like the Exeter. But luckily for us, my character has plot armor, and dressed in nothing but rags, survives the wreck by clinging to a half-sunken piece of wood, and a crab friend to wake me up. A quick character customization, once it becomes unlocked, sets me off in the beginning of my closed beta adventure, where, as fortune would have it, a small fishing ship suddenly appears on the waves of the crash wrecks, and its crew of 2 manage to find me among the wrecks of the Exeter and the other pirate ships who met a similar fate. Offering me a hand, they bring me on board their little shipwrecked boat themselves, and my adventure on this little fishing dhow begins. Once we get our bearings of everything around us, we set the sails high, all one of them, and locate a nearby island. We dock on the island to get our bearings and run into the Exeter's cargo master who managed to survive the shipwreck, alongside a load of other pirates who washed ashore drunk and with a small campfire to try to help them out. The cargo master tasks us with recovering some of the remains of the Exeter's sunken cargo in exchange for information on how to return to Captain Skurlock, the original pirate who hired us to escort the Exeter, and finding our way to the pirate haven of St. Anne. Taking stock of our own ship's cargo, we can see that we have nothing more than a pile of rotted wooden planks and some rusted metal. So, scoring some of that sunken cargo that managed to survive the Exeter cargo wreck will make our ship all the more worth it. With our map handy in the direction of that cargo, we set sail. But the waters of the Indian Ocean are shark-infested, and so we quickly snatch up the rum and guns that survived from the wrecks from the Exeter and get to work hunting the sharks that are looking to sink our dhow. Hopefully not, friend. With a few well-placed javelin strikes, we managed to take out a shark that was trying to attack our back. Delivering the goods back to the cargo master on the island doesn't exactly give us the location to Scarlock or the island of St. Anne.
Thanks for the goods.
But we do manage to find the location of one of the sunken ships from the fleet that may have a map and a manifest to our pirate haven. We break open the hull of the ship to board it, even though there's not much worth left, and with some of the ship's cannons still functional on that shipwrecked deck, I decided to get in a little target practice against the explosive barrels that washed ashore on the rocks and very conveniently got placed on top of them. You know, all to make sure that I'm prepped for when we finally steer our own ship and we'll have to do some firing of our own. Bombs away, boys. If only those barrels were British ships, we would have won that battle fair and square. You know, if by fair and square, they would have sat still and done nothing just like the barrels. We managed to find a map to St. Anne and set sail for a bright horizon and the hopes of a brighter future as a seafaring pirate. And if you're looking to set sail for new horizons yourself, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. You can expect plenty of more Skull and Bones content in the near future, plus videos I've already created and a lot more that's yet to come. So consider sticking around and making your own stake on the seas of YouTube. We finally land aboard the docks of the pirate haven of St. Anne, and now that we've landed on dry land, our first step is getting this ship in working order, which will require some proper tools. We need to harvest some acacia wood on a nearby island that's close to St. Anne, so I dock on board my little fishing dhow and get to work collecting some more resources. With the sails raised high, we head to the right, towards the island and the nearby shores that hold the wood that we're going to need to get some of those captain tools up and running. Oh, or we could, you know, just harvest the wood. We close up the sails and approach the alcove where the wood is located a little more carefully than we would if we were going full speed. Slipping between the rocks, we approach the shores of the island that has the wood we need, and take stock of our ship's actions, making sure we know what we're getting ourselves into. After all, we only have 6 hours to play this, so it's a good idea knowing where the cameras are and what kind of tools I can expect to use. Once we've taken stock of our ship's basic actions and the camera, we manage to find the wood we need floating around in the river below, alongside a perilous shark, who's incredibly lucky that I'm a pirate, and not an Olympian spear thrower. Yeah, it's alright. We managed to do it eventually. That's what counts. If only I had a cannon, though. Well, another croc appears from the depths of the river as if we're in Florida. But this time, my aim gets better. And once I've taken down the crocodile to make sure it doesn't attack us, I return to harvest the wood in the shoreline, making sure I get everything I need to create those captain tools back on the island of St. Anne. Once the trees are down, I set sail for St. Anne as the sun sets over the rocks. Slipping back between the alcove and heading back to the island, I talk to the shipwright and exchange all the gathered acacia wood to complete a contract with him.
I was worried you would not make it back.
Honestly, that makes 2 of us. Well, funny you say that, Mr. Shipwright, because once that contract is complete, I talk to him again and gain the ability to craft my first ever ship, a Badar, designed for damage and a pirate's first steps, or first sails, towards the sea. Across the way, the island blacksmith outfits my ship with some specialized equipment that I'm going to need in order to get started on my pirate adventures, such as specialty cannons called culverins. But since this is the closed beta and I only get 6 hours, I don't exactly get access to all the weapons. So I stick with just the humble cannons and return to the docks, where I outfit my ship with all the extra tools and equipment that I just received. I put the culverin cannons on the bow, starboard, and port of my new Bedard pirate ship. And I also decide to get a little bit fancy once I get the cannons in place, applying a bit of a color palette to my ship and my own skull and bones pirate emblem so everyone knows my sign when they come across me on the seas. And, you know, snap a few pictures for my own posterity. I mean, hey, those thumbnails have to come from somewhere, right? For the first time ever, I take a proper ship out in the seas, rather than a fishing boat, and raise the sails to chase my first quest of sinking enemy royal ships.
Captain, grab your spyglass so we can identify those French leeches.
Square the top!
Couldn't agree more.
It looks like a pack of ships!
The first ships we spot belong to the local indigenous faction, being the clan of Farah. And since we're not at war with them, we graciously let the ships pass by, until we come across a compagnie ship that we've been searching for. Being my first ever attempts at combat, our first few volleys hit the compagnie ship's sails. But the damage done to the sails don't do a whole lot, and so I go ahead and aim a little bit lower, and turn my own ship around to begin striking the enemy compagnie ship directly in its hull, dealing some serious damage once I slowly start to get used to the actual ship combat of the game. But hey, it's my first ever combat, so I think I can be excused for mucking it up a little bit.
We're ready to shoot, Captain!
Once my forward-facing cannons start hitting some real devious damage on the compagnie ship, the ship is low and weak enough that I can make attempts to board it. But since this is my first time trying to board a ship, I grossly underestimate just how close I need to be in order for it to work. My crewmates keep telling me to get really close to it, and finally I manage to do just that. I catch that slippery compagnie ship and board it, looting its treasure and seizing everything in its cargo that isn't bolted down. Thus begins our pirate adventure, complete with food, bog iron, and a little bit of silver. But we need one more ship to raid in order to complete our quest from Skurlock. And so this time, I waste no time in making sure to strike critical hits right on the compagnie ship. But this time, I'm not given the opportunity to board the ship, as I'm a little too overzealous in my firing and critical hits, and the ship explodes. Once the ship explodes in a fiery glory and spills its cargo all across the sea, I manage to loot it. But another compagnie ship spots my piracy in the distance and doesn't take too kindly to it. So rather than having the ship feel left out from the action, I include it. And with a few well-placed strikes and a few more critical hits right to the ship's port side, I make sure that I strike that one down too. And making sure I really finish the job, hit it with a ram right directly to its front. Another ship blows, and just like that, my loot's gathered, the compagnie ships are down, and my contract is complete. With everything gathered and squared away, I turn tail and head back to the pirate haven of St. Anne to drop off my well-earned cargo, as proof of my first contract as a pirate, and proof that I sunk the first 2 ships that I will on my adventure as a pirate. God, I love this game.